And the topic that we're going to discuss now is a very interesting project that we all know very well because it's much discussed here in Iceland. It's Borgarlína, or the city transportation line, which is upcoming. But we are so fortunate that we have had a foreign expert help us with consulting on that project. And she's going to give us some insights from Borgarlínan under the title Shaping the Future of Model-Based Delivery in Iceland. So would you please welcome to the stage Janika Rehn.
Thank you. Let's start with a show of hands. How many in the room are familiar with the Borgarlínan project? Great, almost everyone. My name is Janika, and I work in Kuvi, Norway. Kuvi has a contract with Betri Samgöngur, who is developing the Borgarlínan project. And we work as a client advisor, managing the design management, construction management, and digital delivery. My role in the project is a digital delivery manager, which means that I am responsible for the client digital strategy, requirements in the project, and following up that the designers and eventually contractors are working and delivering in accordance with those requirements. So, as most of you already know, the project is a rapid bus transit system in the greater Reykjavik area, which is a quite significant investment from Iceland and from the capital area in the infrastructure, in the development of the infrastructure. And a lot of these assets that we are now designing and have started to construct already, they will also live here and affect the lives of the people in Reykjavik area for many, many years to come, long after all of our design team is going to be gone. It's quite a complex project. We have a lot of different stakeholders involved. We have several different designers and contractors working on the project. And while the traditional drawing-based design methodology can work for small-scale projects, as the size and complexity grows, those traditional methods don't really scale so well. And this is where model-based design comes in. We have already seen examples from Norway, where we see that working model-based can, in the bigger picture, save money. Mostly on the right side of the screen, you see the savings that we can have in the construction phase. So the idea is that we put more effort into doing things model-based in the design phase so that we have a better coordinated design. We have better control over the quantities, schedule, and so on, avoiding surprises in the construction phase and therefore reducing the amount of change orders. As I mentioned, the project is split into several different design packages. We have split the project into 6 different sections or lotas. A lot of those lotas are currently under conceptual design. Lota 1, there we have 3 different designers working on preliminary and detailed design. The entirety of the project spans over 6 different municipalities. In addition with that, we have interfaces with Vegarin, with Veitur and other utility owners. And on the right side, you can see for Lota 1 how the different subsections have been split up with the 3 designers, and more designers are going to join the project later on. We have currently framework agreement with 4 street contractors. And the one part of the project that is now currently in construction phase, here in the more southern end of the Lota 1, is the Fossvogsbro Bridge contract, which, where the construction works have been started earlier this spring. We've had from the beginning quite high ambitions for the project in terms of digitalization and model-based design and construction. I'm not going to read out the entire list of our strategic goals, but as you can see, there's a lot of times things like connecting the model with the bill of quantities, having better control over the cost and time, asset information model, delivering that to the end owner. So the project itself, we are developing the project, but we will be, in the end, handing over the infrastructure to the different municipalities, to Vegarin, Veitur, and so on. So we need to get also information on what do they need in the model in order for them to be able to use the model further in the operation and maintenance phase. So with these ambitions, what have we actually done so far? Mostly, we have used the model in the design process for model-based design review, clash detection, quantity takeoff, visualizations. In the bridge part of the project, it's a little bit more advanced, but this is mostly for the majority of the Lota 1, the reality today. And as you can see, if you compare this with the previous list of ambitions, there is a certain gap here between where we want to go and where we are currently right now. And this gap is not just because designers are not delivering based on our ambitions. This is also something that can be seen if we start reading through what are we actually currently requiring for the designers to deliver versus what the long-term goals are. Another thing that we noticed in the past year is that we need to do a bit better job in defining the use cases for BIM. So instead of saying, I want a BIM model, we need to ask ourselves, okay, what do we actually want to use it for? What is the end goal? How can we measure through at the end of the project whether or not we were successful or not? And from those goals, we need to then look into, okay, what does that actually mean for the concrete use cases? Another challenge that we've had is how to scale BIM across organizations. What I see following up the different designers is that some designers are already quite far. They are ready to work with us and develop the workflows, and other designers are still in the phase where they are transitioning from the drawing-based way of working into the model-based. And with several different designers and contractors also comes the challenge that we have a lot of different tools that we use in the project. So as the client, I think it's also important that we don't bind the designers into using certain tools, but that every designer has the freedom to pick the tool that is best suited for their job. And then it's our job to write the requirements in a way that enable all the different design softwares to speak with each other, how we exchange information between that. Probably the biggest challenge, I think, is not really the tools and technologies. We have a lot of technology and softwares that we can use. The biggest challenge that we are facing at the moment is the organizational and cultural change. So what we need to do all together is to stop thinking of BIM as something that you deliver at the end of the project, or something that the BIM manager or the BIM coordinator will fix. And instead start thinking of that as a tool that we use throughout the design process. And this means that all the discipline leads we'll need to start taking ownership of the model. We need to start thinking that if it is not in the model, it doesn't exist. And every single designer needs to have a sense of ownership that whatever I design needs to be visualized in the model or somehow linked to the model as information so that we can actually use it as a single source of truth throughout the entire process. Here we also face a challenge that a lot of times the laws and regulations, they are written with the assumption that we are delivering documents and drawings. So we need to also think around that what are actually the requirements? How much can we replace drawings with the model? And what options we have for developing and pushing this forward. Last thing that we have identified, I've gotten quite a bit of feedback from our BEP document. It's quite a long document. And a lot of people in the project have expressed that it's a little bit difficult to read, make sense of it. It does mix our requirements and the execution. The current version also covers everything from design to construction and as built. So that is something that we are looking into splitting these up and making a clear differentiation between what are our requirements and then creating templates for the designers to write their BEPs as an answer to our requirements. So our solution to how to tackle these challenges was to identify that we need to write a clearer digital vision and a strategy for the entire project. We started this process a bit before Christmas with a pre-workshop questionnaire that was sent out to the PMO team, so the Betri Samgöngur and Kuvi, who are together steering the project, as well as to the designers and contractors that are currently involved in the project. So even though we recognize that the vision and the strategy is something that we need to own as a client, we thought that it was very important that we also include the designers and the contractors to get the reality of the industry taken into account when we write the strategy. We had a workshop in Iceland in January with all of the people involved, and we are currently working on, based on the outcomes of that workshop, writing the vision and strategy, and perhaps most importantly, the digital roadmap, which will be our plan of how do we get from today's situation, step by step, to those high-level strategic goals. Once these documents are finalized, they will be shared with our stakeholders for commenting rounds. And based on that, we will eventually finalize our governing documents. So that is the update of our BIM requirements and all of these templates for BEPs and so on. Here is a little bit some insights of the questions that were included in the questionnaire before the workshop. As you see on the upper side, it was quite clear that the majority of the project team felt that we need to use model-based design in order to have better coordinated design, better control of cost and time, as well as better data for decision-making in the project. The majority of the project felt that the biggest barriers to BIM being used successfully in the project was the lack of direction and clear goals, limited knowledge and training, inconsistent workflows across teams, and resistance to change. What was very nice to see in the answers was that when asked what our ambition level for BIM versus drawings should be in the project, more than 75% of the people answered that we should aim for at least model-driven approach. So where the model is the source of truth and the drawings are derived from the model. 24% were ready to go fully digital, no drawings at all. I think the end result will be something in between those two. Based on the conversations in the workshop, what was quite clearly visible was that the client, the designer, and the contractor, of course we have quite small sample sizes for the designer and contractor here, but we could see that our focus was in slightly different places. For the client, success looks like predictable delivery, control, and value for money. So the client organization was quite focused on the high-level benefits of model-based design. The designers, on the other hand, they talked a lot about correct information, better coordinated information, and how they can actually create information that is buildable for the contractors. The contractors, on the other hand, were asking a lot of questions about how do I know that the information in the model is correct? How do I know that I can actually build based on these models? What is the level of detail? Can I really trust the data in the model? So they wanted predictability for more efficient execution. What does this mean for the future? I think even though we have very different focus levels of what matters for the designer, the client, and the contractor, there's a lot of things also in common. Having reliable, correct information, that is the cornerstone of what all three parties are interested in having. All three parties were also very interested in using the model as a means to have better control over cost and time. And I think this also means that we need to move, as earlier mentioned, not looking at BIM as an end goal, but seeing as a means to an end. So what do we actually want to achieve with the model? Not because the client put this requirement, then we need to deliver this model in this way or that. In the updating of the new strategy and requirements, there are some balances that we need to, or tensions that we need to balance. One of them is between how ambitious we want to be. The project is going to be finished in 2040, so we do have 14 years to get there. So how do we have ambitious goals and also make a plan of what can we do today, what can we do in 5 years from now, what can we do in 10 years from now? Of course, most projects struggle with the balance of what brings value in the long term and what are the short-term pressures usually in terms of time and money. And at the end, how much governance versus flexibility we want to have. So we need to have requirements that push the industry forward, but we also need to have the flexibility for new ideas, new technologies to be implemented throughout the project. For the development of the strategy and requirements, this will mean that we will end up in this kind of triangle where we go around. What we are currently working on is revising our requirements based on the strategic goals, getting clarity on what are our goals, and adapting our requirements based on that, so that we can then hand over those requirements to the designers, who will need to find a way to fulfill those requirements and deliver a model that the contractor can then take and use as input for their work. And in Fossvogsbru, we are already getting a bit into the third box there, where we are handing over the model to the contractor and having a dialogue with them, asking them, how does this work for you? Is there something in the model that, what works well, first of all? And is there something missing? Is there something that could be structured in another way that would make it easier for the guys on site to actually use it further in the process? And then what we can do is take this feedback, and we're going to feed it back into the first step, into our updated requirements. And with such a long project, we're probably going to go over and over this process. In the project, we also have the advantage that it is split up into so many subsections. So we have the situation where we have construction going on at the same time with preliminary and detailed design, and we have the chance to update our requirements for that. When it comes to the AEC market in Iceland, what our goal is in the project is to challenge the way of working, push forward, demand more model-based work in order to lift the entire industry. We are working with so many different designers and contractors that we believe that by starting to have higher requirements for model-based design, we can really then make a difference across the design and construction industry. With all of our stakeholders, it's also a great opportunity to collaborate together with Vegarin, Veitur, and all the different municipalities, and hopefully find a way, a common direction, so that the client organizations in Iceland can start putting in requirements for model-based design that are more or less aligned with each other, so that it's easier also for the designers to develop their workflows, so that it's not something completely different depending on the client. Thank you.